It was a typical night for Jamie, who worked at Walmart stocking shelves during the quiet overnight hours. She'd been working at this Walmart for nearly 3 years, so she knew the store inside out. On this particular night, things were off. The store felt quieter than usual. The lights above flickered more than they typically did, and the cold air seemed to carry a strange uneasiness. Jamie was alone in the electronics section, stacking DVDs when she first heard it, a faint whisper of her name. At first, she brushed it off, thinking it was a coworker trying to play a prank. Must be Tim, she thought. He was known for sneaking up on people during the night shifts and getting a laugh out of spooking others. But then she heard it again, this time louder. "Jamie?" Jamie froze. The voice was coming from the stockroom. She glanced around to see if any coworkers were nearby, but the store was completely deserted. It was late, and the only other staff members were either at the front desk or in the loading area. She tried to shrug it off, but something pulled her toward the stockroom. Curiosity? Fear? She couldn't tell. As Jamie walked closer to the stockroom doors, the air around her became even colder, the kind of cold that makes your breath visible in front of you. She pushed the door open slowly. The stockroom was dark, with only one flickering light illuminating the space. Boxes were stacked high, casting long, eerie shadows across the floor. That's when she saw it. In the far corner, behind a stack of boxes, stood a figure. Jamie squinted, trying to make sense of it. It was tall, almost impossibly so, with dark, indistinct features. Her heart pounded in her chest as she whispered, "Hello?" But there was no response. The figure just stood there, motionless. Suddenly, a box fell from one of the top shelves, shattering the silence. Jamie jumped, her body filled with fear. When she looked back at the corner where the figure had been, it was gone. Her stomach turned. This can't be real, she thought. She rushed out of the stockroom, trying to shake off the overwhelming fear. She told her manager about what she had seen, but when they went back to the stockroom together, everything was in its place. No fallen boxes, no cold air, no figure. It was as if nothing had happened, but Jamie knew what she had seen, and it wasn't something she could forget. That wasn't the last time Jamie experienced something strange. Over the following weeks, she would hear the whispers again, her name being called from dark corners of the store, always when no one else was around. Some nights, she would catch glimpses of shadowy figures out of the corner of her eye, disappearing the moment she looked directly at them. It got to the point where she could no longer stay on the night shift, fearing that whatever was haunting the store might one day reveal itself fully. She eventually transferred to the day shift, but the experience stayed with her. If you're new here and love hearing spine-chilling stories like this, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts. We appreciate every one of you, and sharing helps spread the fright. Mark, a former military man with years of experience under his belt, wasn't the type to scare easily. After retiring, he took a job as a night security guard at Walmart. It was mostly a quiet gig. His job was to patrol the parking lot and make sure everything stayed secure. The large, sprawling parking lot was often empty, especially during the late night hours. But Mark soon found out that quiet didn't always mean safe. It was a cold, clear night, and the lot was nearly empty, save for a few cars scattered near the entrance. Mark sat in his security car, sipping on coffee to keep warm when he noticed something strange at the far end of the lot. A single car with its headlights off, but the engine running. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped out of the car, walking toward the vehicle. As he got closer, the air around him grew thick with tension. The kind of tension that puts every hair on your body on edge. He couldn't see inside the car just yet, so he knocked lightly on the driver's side window. No response. Mark peered inside, and that's when he saw it. The car was empty. No driver, no passenger, just an idling engine in an empty vehicle. Confused, he tried opening the door, but it was locked. He tapped on the window again, more forcefully this time, hoping to get some kind of reaction, but the car stayed eerily silent. As Mark turned to walk back to his patrol car, he heard the unmistakable sound of the engine shutting off. His heart skipped a beat. He slowly turned around to face the car, and there she was, a woman sitting in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead. She was pale, almost ghostly. Her eyes were hollow, dark rings circling them as if she hadn't slept in years. She didn't blink. She didn't move. She just sat there, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly, staring at nothing. Mark's mind raced. He just checked the car. It had been empty. He didn't want to take his eyes off her, but instinct kicked in, and he reached for his radio to call for backup. But as soon as he looked back at the woman, she was gone. The car was still there, but the driver's seat was empty again. Mark stood frozen for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. He quickly returned to his security car and reviewed the parking lot footage, expecting to see the woman on the cameras. But there was no car, no woman, nothing. It was as if the entire encounter had never happened. That night changed everything for Mark. He still worked as a security guard, but he refused to patrol the parking lot alone. Something about that woman, her eyes, the way she appeared and disappeared, it stuck with him. It felt like a warning, like the parking lot wasn't as empty as it seemed. Lily had worked at Walmart for 2 years as a cashier. Her shifts were often dull, filled with the monotonous beeps of scanning items and the hum of conversation between customers. But one night shift would leave her shaken to the core, changing how she viewed the store forever. It was late, just before midnight, when a strange customer caught her eye. He was an older man, probably in his 60s, wearing a long black coat. He moved slowly through the aisles, barely touching anything. It seemed odd, but she didn't think much of it at the time. Sometimes people just wandered around the store late at night, passing the time. As the night dragged on, the man eventually made his way to the front of the store. Lily noticed he didn't have anything in his cart, nothing at all. He approached her register, pushing his empty cart with slow, deliberate steps. His face was expressionless, his eyes dark and cold. Lily tried to keep her composure. "Did you find everything you were looking for?" she asked, trying to sound polite despite the odd situation. The man didn't respond. He just stared at her with those empty eyes. After what felt like an eternity of silence, he finally spoke in a low, raspy voice. "They're coming for you," he said, his words chilling her to the bone. Lily's heart raced. "Excuse me," she stammered, unsure if she had heard him correctly, but the man just stood there, silent again. A cold sweat broke out on her skin as she struggled to figure out what to do next. Before she could say anything else, the man turned and walked away, leaving his empty cart behind. Lily felt a wave of relief as he disappeared from view. But when she looked back toward the security cameras, ready to report the strange encounter, her blood froze. There was no sign of the man anywhere on the footage. It was as if he had never been in the store. Terrified, Lily quit her job at Walmart not long after. She couldn't shake the feeling that the man's words had been a warning. And worse, she feared that whoever, or whatever, was coming for her was still out there, waiting,